What your support team needs to help you succeed with Molly McGrath, episode 280. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we have a replay for one of the sessions of our annual Planning Best Year Ever 2022 event. If you want to access the video version of this episode, as well as all the other topics that were covered during this event, as well as links to the downloadables from the speakers, you definitely want to go check that out at profitwithlaw.com/planning replay, profitwithlaw.com/planning replay. We will also have that linked up in the show notes below this episode, as well as on our website, profitwithlaw.com. And without further ado, here is that session.
Tool that I reference here, just make note, and I shared a Google link with endless supplies of resources and tools and everything you need to implement once we're done with today's presentation. So I won't have time to go into each concept that I'm speaking of, but do know that the support is there within the Google Doc that your team will share with everybody after this event, right?
Yeah, there's a replay link that we're sharing after each speaker. So for anybody who's catching this on Facebook Live and hasn't registered, you want to go there to do that. And Mimi from my team is going to go and post that into the chat right now. But anybody who's registered, you're getting an email each morning with the replay page, and all the resources that our speakers have provided are being linked to from that page.
Okay, great. Okay, so first things first, of really what we want to drive home today is you need to understand that the way to get your employees to help set you up for success, I always call it, as Moshe said, entrepreneurs in entrepreneurs world, leaders leading leaders. And believe it or not, your employees want that responsibility. They want that permission. They want that authority. But one way to really make certain that you set them up for success is to make sure that the employee knows that they are not a bother to you. For 28 years, we have been getting phone calls, emails, texts, speaking with employees across the nation. And this is a common theme that we hear from them. And we hear from the employee or the attorneys on the flip side, I don't have time to fill in the blank, train my employees, they better come batteries included, etc. But you have to remember you're in the H to H business, human to human. And the best thing to really kick off this plan, and I'm really hopeful that you are going to walk away with a phenomenal strategy today, is your employee needs to know that they're coached in the right direction. And while being properly acknowledged for their work and their value and their time, if they get the time, attention, feedback, and engagement, they will never, ever leave you. It is the greatest retention tool. And if it doesn't match up, they will absolutely check out and they will leave. It's one of the reasons why law firms should start to worry about loyalty statistics data. And I'm going to share with you, we were writing an article this morning and we found a lot of information about the employee retention currently. And this number is vastly changing. And it has been changing, honestly, since 2008. But COVID absolutely put it in the forefront of employees' mind. They need to know they're hiring you just as much as you are hiring them. And they're staying with you because of the culture and the environment, the tonality and the energy and the essence within your culture. 65% of employees know. They absolutely know with certainty that they can find a better position elsewhere. Recruiters right now are vicious. It is shark infested waters. And I'm not giving you this information and data from a place to breathe fear in the room, but just to breathe awareness in the room. Because guess what? There is a solution to make certain that you are able to retain your employees. Jay talked a lot about hiring. I'm going to be talking a lot about retention right now. Employees' retention rates are at a record low, and it's continuing to change on the daily. By 2030, low retention will cost us 430 billion annually, and good retention can maximize company profits. I think that I've seen this number even higher than 4x. And 87% of HR experts report employee retention is the absolute highest priority because of the turnover. And the turnover within the first 45 days of work at a new firm. And in fact, I'm seeing this number more when I place people by the end of Friday of week 1 and I check in with them. I start to hear the rumblings of, should I be concerned about X? Should I be? And it's never about the workload. It is always about the energy in the building. It's about the empowerment, about the inspiration. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to set your team up for success. Because what stops the growth of a firm? It's really the hard wiring without the mindset empowerment. The team come from the corporate world. So when you're bringing new employees in, no matter how great of a job that you did in regards to your hiring and onboarding process, you still have the trauma that they have from a previous place that they've worked. And that's always going to be their frame of reference. The days of you should be lucky to have a job and you should come in and put your head down and keep your mouth shut and collect your paycheck are gone. They're over. Employees want a place where they can be part of difference making, where they can make impact, where they have personal victory and fulfillment. And the attorneys come from the legal world. You all tell us, and you have been for 20 plus years, that this is really the attorney's world. You come out of law school with a trained skeptic. This is what attorneys have told us. That's your greatest craft that you have, but that's how you're trained in law school, but it doesn't translate very well when it comes time for developing your human capital and the emotional capital and the mental capital within your clients, your referral sources, power partners, and team. You come out with a tremendous amount of loans and debt. You do not get training into how to run a business and absolutely not to how to run your human capital and your team and to build a team, especially a coaching environment team in law school. And the statement that consistently comes from attorney is need to think about it in the way that it lands for the employees, that it's deferred decisions to defer risk. What's the standard attorney response to any question? It depends. And so attorneys world, that we understand it, but your team members don't. And when I educate team members on where the attorney's perspective are, what their attorney world is, they're constantly hear everyone's problems, employees, clients, referral source. And guess what? Then they go home and get it from their family as well. And every time they walk out of a conference room or a meeting, there is a line of people that have nothing but problems that they are supposed to solve for them. They feel like they work very hard to pay everybody else's salary. And when they look around at 5 o'clock and the workload and the problems are still there, there's nobody around. They feel alienated, can't talk freely with clients and team, and try not to take it home. As an entrepreneur, the statement of never let them see you sweat, will always feel like we're carrying around that 1,000-pound backpack of problems and worries, and we don't want to freak other people out. At least that's how we've been trained as entrepreneurs, to not share it with the employees. Delegating certain tasks is insulting to their training, terrified of not knowing the law and being figured out. I hear, again, these are the words that I've heard from attorneys since 1997. Feel the constant pressure of cash flow, want the team to support them, but don't know how, and wishes somebody else would just figure it out. And the front desk is a revolving door for unqualified staff, and creating a lot of confusion and chaos that is unintended within the practice, because they're going 1,000 miles an hour and don't have what what they tell me that they need is leaders leading leaders. And then you have the teams world where they're constantly terrified of being fired. So they won't step up and lead. They don't use their voice. They don't come with proposed solutions. Again, their frame of reference is always their previous position, that they got in trouble for X, or they got fired for X, or they witnessed Susie or Joey or whomever getting fired for X. They feel overwhelmed and underpaid. Again, their perspective. And they're trained from past experience to keep their mouth shut and to stay in their box. And they're really unsure of the standards and their boundaries and the expectations in regards to where they can speak up and step up and lead. And they don't know what it means when you say step up, when it means to take ownership, and when it means to care as much. These are, again, words from attorney, as much as the entrepreneur does about the clients and the life cycle of the file. And they don't understand the thought process of a business owner or the client. A massive miss where we're not speaking the same language. And they live in the process and system, but they don't understand the big picture conversation. And when the entrepreneur and the attorney has that with them, they get the deer in the headlight look, and they assume that they're freaking them out, so they don't share the big picture or the vision with them because they don't feel like they can handle it. But quietly, they're desperately searching for it and seeking it. They're highly stressed because they're at the whim of the attorney's interruptions and all the production team, paralegals, etc. Not going to be honest because the attorney, again, signs her paycheck, so they believe that, that you don't ever question the boss. They feel insulted when the attorney gives drive-by suggestions for a job that they've never done. And they're too busy to sit in another meeting, especially when there's not intentionality and purpose for it and what their role and goal is in sitting in there. And they spend the first 15 minutes of every meeting recapping where we left off at the last meeting because everybody's so busy and don't have the ability to retain it without the lack of structure and system and empowerment for them to really show up as that entrepreneur in an entrepreneur world. And honestly, they feel like they are not acknowledged enough because everybody is so busy and going full throttle all the time. So there's really two simple rules of simple survival for the team. First, the company must be profitable to survive, but the company must also produce value for their employees in order to survive, because we all know the statistics in regards to that revolving door and what it takes to hire, onboard, train, and retain employees. And we know the impact of that revolving door, so to speak. So I really want to talk today about the fundamental truths to work together and to get on that same playing field. And it starts with speaking the same language and the ability to have empowering, courageous adult conversations in real time throughout your firm, daily, consistently, persistently. And honestly, yes, it is this simple to create an empowering culture, to create retention within your firm, and to set your employees up for success so they consistently have your back. So let's talk about this speaking the same language and what that means. This means everybody understands absolutely why clients hire us, and every person in the firm can communicate consistently. It is in their bones. They know your why. They know your true north. They know exactly where we're going. I think Jay was talking a lot about values and mission and things of that nature, and I could not agree more. I can't tell you how many firms I work with where they don't have their core values, or they did a fun business exercise where they identified their core values, but they're sitting on a shelf somewhere. This is about creating your core values where they're on white poster boards throughout your conference room where you meet on a weekly basis for your weekly team meetings, that we actually recite them every single week and see how are we doing with this? How are we doing with communicating this with our clients, with our power partners, with us internally as well as externally? They're very clear on the future picture of your firm and how you plan to get there, in the daily picture and their role in it. Most people will get hired on a job description, which the job ad and the job description very rarely match. Sometimes they do when you use recruiters and Wise Hire and things of that nature. But then they get into the firm, and then 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, they'll start saying, well, my job description changed, or this wasn't what I was hired for, etc. So when you create a culture and create a language, because my experience quite often, the reason that we don't share the future picture with our team and the daily picture and constantly anchor to that is so often as entrepreneurs, we feel a little freaked out about that. We need to know the answers. We need to know the absolute of how to get there. And if we don't have it fully, wholly, crystal clear and figured out at all times, and or we're afraid that sometimes it changes, especially when you're working with coaches such as Moshe's team and what have you, then we're afraid that the team's going to freak out. But I can tell you, I have facilitated so many quarterly strategic retreats. And I love when the attorney steps up and the entrepreneur steps up and they talk about their vision for the future practice and then what it's looking like on a daily basis. But they don't know exactly precisely what the plan is to get there. And then they ask the team to be involved in that. There is such empowerment in that. There are so many studies that when you have human beings part of the creation and part of the how, that how much they are invested in that, talking about stepping up and lead, talk about having your back, talking about taking a bullet for the mission of the business and the future picture. So when you have that, and you communicate with that team and you get in that think tank and you explain to them, okay, great, guys, this is a team approach. I want to get your insight. Here's where we're going. Now let's all develop and plan it together. You will have consistent involvement and empowerment with that, not speaking the same languages. And pay attention, just think for a second. These are the examples that I've heard from attorneys for so many years. But when you have a team that roll their eyes instead of clarifying what is being declared or asked, if you are not getting engagement with your team, they're not really questioning, okay, great, what's the beginning, what's the middle, what's the end, and what's the why? When you're giving direction or planning out things and they're not consistently coming back with that banter, or they might just have their head down constantly, or they're rolling their eyes, or you're getting the, proverbial arm cross and things of that nature. That's when you need to do a hard stop. When you feel like you have a yeser, I've written a book that was developed 100% for your team. It's a 12-module training plan to create that entrepreneur in an entrepreneur's world. And the reason I wrote the title of that book, Don't Be a Yes Chick, was because employees would tell us, my attorney goes to all these conferences and all this woo-woo stuff, and they come back with all these business books and put them on my desk and tell me to read it. And the way it was landing for the team members, here's a book to fix you. And so the reason I wrote and I studied it very much when we came up with the title of it is I wanted to write a book for the employee's perspective so they'd actually read it and figure out how to support their attorney, because they say they want more opportunities, they want growth, but they don't know the path to get there. And the attorney didn't know the path on how to get there. So when you have team members that are consistently yesing you versus having courageous, clarifying conversations, not speaking the same languages when they're consistently asking, are you busy versus are you interruptible? They're not using this empowering language. And in the back end of the Google Drive, I give you examples of how to shift and transform the language and get to the place of speaking the same language, making drive-by suggestions with no real requests, and consistently coming to you with problems versus proposed solutions. And when you have that communication ping pong with a 4-paragraph email with suggestions versus scheduling dedicated time to work through it and touching once, they're not taking ownership and awareness in your calendar and how busy you are, and they're not making your life easier. That might be a time where you really want to take stock of what is the framework for the language that we are using within our practice set us up for success and to get us to goal. And it starts with an empowering conversation. What does that mean? I don't know. I've been talking about empowering conversations for since the late 90s, and now it's a word that I think that has a lot of different connotations to it and maybe has been a little diluted. In my perspective, it doesn't mean that, I'm big in brass and bolts and you're not going to tell me what to do. That is not the essence of empowering for me. For me, and my intention with that, writing it in my books and talking about it on my podcast, was the other person leaves and motivated to own it. It is in their bones. They're fully, wholly taking ownership of it. They might not be clear on exactly what it is, what's being asked to them, but they're not afraid to clarify. They're not afraid to verify. They're not afraid to make certain that they are in fact, they actually have that language built into every conversation. We don't end a conversation without clarifying and verifying. All right, real quick debrief. This is what you said you wanted from me. Here's what I'm going to be doing. Here's my next action, and I'm going to give you an update by X. They're very, very, that is empowered, where there's tremendous amount is all led by in the name of clarity. The empowering conversation only has to happen once. So if you're having multiple conversations, which I hear from law firms all the time, you feel like you're having the same conversation over and over again, stop and go back and make sure that you have the same verbiage and language for getting to goal, and then really have a conversation with your team member about what it means to own it, and built in some of that language where at the end we constantly clarify and verify. At the end, we do a debrief or recap, because they're not afraid to try, and they absolutely are not afraid to fail forward. There is absolutely no room for shame or blame or finger pointing. They don't use this victim mentality or language such as I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble or I always get in trouble. That doesn't even enter their world at all. So let's talk about 8 keys to effectively support the attorney with empowerment and results. And if you do not have a team member here today, share this replay with them. Share the Google link of all the tools that I have given you. I'm going to go through the 8 keys. I don't have extensive time today to go into each one of them. However, in the tool, you will absolutely have an exercise and a workbook and everything you need to do this as a team exercise with your entire team. And I want you to pay attention, because you can build some of your core values out of these 8 keys to an empowering conversation. So number 1 is walk the walk. And a lot of these came from firms that I've worked with over the years, and they actually are part of their core values. Walk the walk is that as the attorney, if you're sitting in that spot, that you walk the walk, and the same thing with the employee. And we have a standard to hold each other accountable to this. So what does this mean? Walk the walk is that if you're expecting employees that are self-governing, that are come in on time, that they consistently show up, they're present and they're prepared, that they are coming with proposed solution mindset, what have you, that you're also doing that as the attorney. So take stock, do analysis, and see where you're ditching meetings, where you're maybe not meeting your deadlines, where you're not showing up prepared for your weekly team meetings and things of that nature. Again, these words that I hear from team members just as much as from attorneys, where I hear complaints of people not taking ownership and pride in their work, not following up and following through, not sending in their daily snapshot report, whatever it might mean. So this is where we are all in full agreement, and we all have permission and authority and responsibility to hold each other accountable, that we absolutely walk our walk internally as well as externally, because people behave how you train them to behave. And so go the coach, so go the coachees. So take a look at yourself as the attorney, as a professional law firm administrator, COO, whatever position you're sitting in, where you may be seeing less than stellar peak performance activities or behaviors from the people that you're working with, internally, externally, 1099, W-2, agencies, whomever, everyone. take a real look at all the relationships and the people that you write checks to and seeing where you're having consistent frustration and disappointment. And then take a look at yourself. I'm a big proponent of self-accountability and self-reflection, and see where you may be showing up late to meetings, ditching meetings, things of that nature, and then really make a commitment walking into the new year of how you're going to really walk the walk as a leader, leading leaders. Number 2, honest while respectful. We have an adult culture here. And these, again, you're going to go through this in the workbook and it'll go more in depth, but that we have honest while respectful conversations in real time, that we have the freedom. And in fact, we depend on it for you to give honest feedback, for you to question why we're doing what we're doing. Again, it's not from a place of shame and blame, but they are honest while respectful conversations, ideas, things of that nature. Number 3, we lead with facts without emotion. We don't finger point. Everything that we come to, if we find out that Susie is not, pulling her weight in regards to proofing documents or drafting documents or whatever it might be, we're always going to go to the facts in regards to the breakdown and process. I always say, go to process first. If you always anchor your facts to a place of your system and your process and your productivity in the name of profitability, then it takes all the sting out of it. You don't have to, there's no more drama within a business and an environment because we're anchoring to that consistently. So if you can create a culture where we start our conversations, we end our conversations, and we're consistently anchoring to facts, then that will eliminate all the drama that we hear so often from law firm owners and team internally about coworkers. Number 4, again, talking about my leading into my book of why I came up with that title of really, we have a culture where we are not just yesing each other. We really do not actually have toleration from that. We have an opinion. We have a better way of doing things. We ask the powerful questions among each other, and you're encouraging it with and actually depending on it. When you see people that are consistently just shaking their head and yesing or looking down and not engaging and taking feverish notes and then leaving and then having the meeting after the meeting of all the ideas and the things they didn't say in the meeting and wasting everyone's time, then you know that you have a yeser on your team. And it's time for take a giant step back and have that crucial conversation with them. And as a team collectively, we don't have a culture of shame and blame. We do not have a culture of right versus wrong. We have a culture of adults, and everybody's opinion and insight matters. Number 5, this one is critical. Same place, same time, where you are meeting with your team. So my recommendation is that you have a weekly stakeholders meeting where we are meeting every Monday at 9 a.m. per se. Again, you're going to go back to number 1 and walk your walk. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to be on time. I'm not going to cancel meetings, and I'm going to show up present and prepared. So when you come to that place of showing up same place, same time, where people are doing it in your team meeting, in addition to a lot of firms will do a daily huddle. Doesn't have to be by the managing attorney, or the attorney might be the PLA or the COO or the team leader or what have you, where we're treating it like a locker room huddle before we get on the Super Bowl playing field, and we're going through our top priorities, what have you. Again, I'll give you an agenda for this, but that this is a way that we eliminate communication ping pong. This is the way we eliminate bottlenecks. This is the way that we eliminate drama. This is the way that we eliminate people saying, well, I emailed so-and-so and never heard it back from them. But we know that we are going to have same place, same time for our production meeting, for our marketing meeting, for our team meeting, for our daily huddles. And attorneys tell me all the time, I don't have time for all these meetings. Well, You really do when it is in a very structured, systematized fashion and it's ran by agenda and it's ran like a military stand up meeting. Actually, have attorneys track their time. Like, how much time did you spend reading that 4 paragraph email trying to even understand what the ask was or trying to discern what was needed next to move the file forward? How many times have you gone back and forth on Teams or Slack or email or what have you with the communication ping pong game versus training people that we have a same time, same place model within our framework of our structure of our business where people are trained to batch their questions, to batch their clarification, again, coming with that proposed solution mindset. Number 6 is in order to have an empowering conversation, is set your team up for success. And this came from one firm where it's actually one of their core values, and I love it. They have a beautiful sign in their conference room of "Don't pop the balloon." And this is a concept of one of the law firms said, the attorney said, "I feel like the kid coming home from the circus all the time with my balloon, and I come in back from my legal conference or coming from the law firm growth summit, and I'm so excited about all the things I learned, what have you. And I come in and I share it, and my team's like got the pin and pop the balloon." We don't have time for that. We don't have manpower for that. You still haven't done blah, blah. They just deflate the entire energy and the creativity of the entrepreneur. And on the flip side, where the attorney is getting ready to go into a conference room to seal the deal of a big case, they're so excited, they're prepared, what have you. And then the employees walking by to go to the water cooler, or if you're virtual, they're texting you and saying, "Mrs. Smith's super upset and we just got fired." And now they're supposed to walk into a conference room or walk into giving a workshop or a presentation or what have you. And there's, again, going back to that same time, same place of making certain we're going to batch that information. So when you create a culture of empowered adult self-governing people, this one, number 6, of really understanding, did I need to know that we just got fired by a client when you're looking at my calendar and knowing I'm just about to go give a presentation or go on stage? This one alone eliminates so much within a law firm in regards to frustration and conversion rates, profitability. This one alone impacts everything in regards to your people, your process, your production, your profitability, your conversion rates, what have you. When we really understand about when we're going to batch this information, keep it for the team meeting, keep it for the daily huddle. When is the point that I need to know this information? When I want to come as an entrepreneur and dump all the great things I learned at the Law Firm Growth Summit, what is my job as the employee to hold a safe container for that and to say, "Great, let me capture all these ideas and I'll put it on the marketing meeting," versus we don't have money or time or what have you for that. Number 7 is a daily dish, and creating an empowering culture where your team knows to give you the State of the Union every single day from every employee. And this is both for the employee as well as the entrepreneur and or manager. When I know I get a daily snapshot report from my team members that just quickly, just like the headline news, that's it. Here's what I accomplished today. Here were my top 3 priorities. Got the Smiths retained. They got their engagement agreement back, got a $10,000 check, was able to get all the documents done and over to the client, what have you, able to do blah, blah, blah. And for the employee, and I've had employees tell me this, when they sit in their vehicle or sign off out of their Zoom room for the day, the personal satisfaction and victory that they have for what they personally contribute to. Again, going back to the beginning, human beings want to make impact. Human beings want to be part of something. Human beings want to be difference making. Yes, the majority of people want that. And so the days where you hear from people that, employees don't want to work anymore, everybody's lazy, especially since the pandemic, not my experience at all. If you have lazy employees or you're experiencing that within the people that you're working with, you have to look at where you are creating an empowering, inviting, exciting culture and environment for them where they are anchored into the big picture, where they are anchored into the daily, what they do on the daily to support you, the clients, and the mission and the vision of the firm. In addition to this, for the attorney to get this, you're no longer waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, in that proverbial sweat of, did I tell Susie to do this? Did we get this? I don't know if she heard me when I told her to do this, etc. So the daily dish eliminates all breakdowns in communication. In addition to, it gives you full faith and confidence that we are moving in the right direction. It gives you full faith and confidence that we're going to have bullet holes coming at us very soon. It gives you the opportunity where we have to move in a different direction and to bring it to the daily huddle the next day and be like, okay, great. I saw this, this, and this. How can we pivot? How can we handle this in real time versus getting into that communication ping pong? It is such a way for you to retain your employees where they get that personal satisfaction, professional satisfaction. They see it every single day, what they're doing, and you're seeing that as somebody who's writing and paying their paycheck as well. And then lastly, going into doesn't work, works versus right, wrong mindset. And having this as the language within your firm consistently, constantly, where we're looking at what didn't work about that. What didn't, so we're not getting to follow up calls or what have you. We have an empty calendar, but we know we just did this webinar and we had 82 leads, but nobody booked their free initial consultation. Why? Well, Susie's not able to get to the follow up phone calls because the paralegals or attorneys or what have you keep dumping stuff on their desk, because we all know the front desk is a dumping ground for everybody's work, what have you. But if you know this in real time and we're looking at, all right, what didn't work about that? Well, it's because I wasn't able to get to it because I had to get this out the door, this emergency, what have you. When you anchor to that of figuring out what didn't work about it, you can handle it in real time. I like to handle first, doesn't work, and then moving to what does work so you can end on a positive note. And when you incorporate this language within every conversation that you have, into every weekly team meeting, and into the fabric of your firm, you will start to hear your employees, I guarantee it, within 2-3 weeks, where they're starting to use this language, where they might be at the printer and Susie's talking to Bobby and Bobby's talking about what they weren't able to. Okay, great. Well, what didn't work about that? Your time template got hijacked, or we had an emergency client that got delegated to you that wasn't on your top 3 for the day. What can we do to turn that into a work? It takes the shame and blame and the finger pointing out of it. And it's a mindset shift that we're happy to report what we didn't get to. We're delighted to share all the things that we weren't able to get to or accomplish in yesterday's tasks or what have you, because we know it's not going to be used as a weapon against us. We have an empowering culture where we actually want to shine the flashlight on what's not working. We actually want to bring it front and center because we know that we are a team that locks arms and works together to turn it into work within 24 hours versus waiting for a strategic retreat or waiting for it to become such a crisis that now it'll be next to impossible to recover from. So I know our time's up and we went fast, and I covered a lot about the 8 keys to an empowering conversation. I'm going to give you the workbook to work you through it, in addition to the getting the same language within the standards of in the framework of your culture. And please feel free to reach out to me. For anyone that's attending, can schedule a complimentary 1-hour law firm discovery call, and I'd be happy to walk through this with you, and hopefully you'll bring your team to it as well.
Awesome, Molly. Thank you so much for this awesome presentation. Really, really insightful. And I love these 8 steps. I can see internally where we have some work to do here at Profit with Law, but also a lot of the things that we're doing correctly, and it's really exciting to see that we're heading in the right direction. It's important to understand as a leader that it's a work in progress. You're always elevating yourself to the next level, and when you think you finally figured it out, then your team expands bigger and you have new problems, new level, new devil, they say, right? Um, and it's important to recognize that this is a constant evolution. So this 8-step process is a reminder of where we need to improve. And in the vein of the event that we're doing right now, which is helping you plan your best year ever for 2022, take those 8 items and take inventory. Which ones are we doing? Which ones aren't we doing? And then what are the most important ones? Let's decide how we're going to focus on this. The nice thing is that if you focused on one of these each month, by August, your team will
Mm.
be completely changed from where they are today. And you don't need to try to do this overnight. And if you make each one a focus for a period of time, James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, talks about how this is how habits are built, and it's really about signing up for something and doing it over and over again until the point that it becomes habitual. And that's where I think that when we say, okay, how do we take action on what Molly just shared, I think that's the way to do it.
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. So, folks, we're going to, Molly, thank you for your time. And we're going to share this replay on our website. So, if you are registered for the event, you're going to be emailed the replay as well as the link to the downloadable that Molly talked about, as well as her email address. All that stuff will be provided in the resources section of this session. If you happen to come upon this live stream on Facebook and you are not register for the event, then you want to go to profitwithlaw.com/planning replay, profitwithlaw.com/planning replay, and you will get taken to this page where you can access all of these replays and resources. Now, for those of you who are looking to do more than just attend this live event, if you are looking to have us help you to create this plan for next year, to create this action packed list, to be able to not have your business be like your gym membership, where you sign up for it with all intense and fury in January, and by mid-February, it's ghost town, and you want to take consistent action throughout the year, then you might want the support that we provide in our program, the Law Firm Growth Elite Coaching Program. That's an 18-month program where we will flip the script on your profitability. We will help you increase your revenue, but also focus on the things that matter to be able to move your business in the right direction. The only way to get started with us is to start with a free coaching session. So if it's something that you're interested in, the coaching session is absolutely free. It's powerful. So even if you decide not to take the next step, it's there for the asking. Now, who is this for? It's if you're stuck. You feel like it's not going as quick as I want. It's going slower than I want. I'm putting in too many hours. I mean, if you're working more than 40 hours a week in your law firm, you're doing something wrong, right? My first session today was on delegation. I mean, just bring in some VAs and clear some things off your plate. Make your time worthwhile. Make that the investment that you have in tying up your own energy as efficient as possible. So let us help you do that, and let us help you take home the money that you deserve from the effort that you're expending. So don't be a struggling law firm owner. Instead, we want you to be a proud and free law firm owner. We want you to be proud of what you've built. We want you to feel the freedom, the time freedom that it can create for you when it's achieved some success. So if this sounds good to you, book a free coaching session at profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. And on this coaching call, my coaches will create a crystal clear vision with you for your ultimate law firm success and the perfect lifestyle that your law firm should provide. They'll help you uncover the hidden challenges that could be sabotaging the growth of your firm and keeping you working too many hours. And finally, you're going to leave the session renewed, re-energized, inspired to turn your firm into a highly profitable revenue-generating machine that practically runs itself. So profitwithlaw.com/free coaching is where you want to go to sign up for that. That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.